This is Rangers Football Club. In May 2011, Rangers clinched their 54th top-flight league title.
Rangers are the champions for 2010-11.
But what followed? A near decade of dominance from city rivals Celtic. Four years rising through the lower leagues of Scottish football led Rangers back to the country's top division in 2016. This is a story of the Scottish Premiership title race of 2020-21.
Celtic have been confirmed as Scottish Premiership champions for the 9th season in a row.
With last season cut short due to the devastating effects of the coronavirus pandemic, Celtic Football Club claim a 9th successive Premiership title.
The decision was taken at a board meeting this morning after the 12 clubs agreed at the end of last week that completing the campaign wasn't possible.
This is celebrating 9 titles in a row, lockdown style.
It's obviously not the way that, we could have seen things pan out. We'd have loved to have done it in front of the supporters and played out the games, but in terms of looking back over the season, we were absolutely outstanding.
Could they go on to make history and win 10 league titles in a row?
Everyone was talking about 10 in a row.
The pressure was on. It was a huge season for both sides.
Rangers and Celtic fans love to wind each other up, and if Celtic had got 10, then it would be, it would be something that could hold against Rangers for a while. And I can't see 9 or 10 ever happening again, so it's probably like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
I think also from Steven Gerrard's point of view, I think this season he had to win a trophy. Last season did not end well.
There was that question mark about were they strong enough mentally to be able to withstand a full season, challenge for the title. And the only way they were going to get around that was to go out and to prove it.
It all kicks off for season 2020-21. Aberdeen against Rangers at Pittodrie live.
I think a lot of people would have looked at the start of the season and felt as though Celtic were still strong favourites. Obviously Rangers had a very difficult opening fixture away at Pittodrie.
If you look this season, the very first game, Aberdeen away, up at Pittodrie, doesn't get any tougher.
Anytime you're going to go to Pittodrie, it's difficult. It's always hard games up there, always. And you knew it was going to be a tough game.
Seldom has the opening day of the season been quite so keenly anticipated. Almost 5 months since the last competitive game, and at last the Scottish Premiership is back, but it's back in unique and somewhat bizarre circumstances. The empty Pittodrie stands testament to that.
Those are the games that you feel bad for the Aberdeen fans, because it's a fixture that they love, and everyone used to say to us, you always raise your game for the Old Firm, but it's like, well, the fans raise their game as well, and the noise is electric, so it would have been difficult for them to not be at the game.
Ryan Kent and Rangers will kick off the Scottish Premiership season after a lengthy absence of competitive football in this country. We're back underway as Rangers look to try to stop Celtic's drive towards 10 in a row.
For me, the signs were there early that, Rangers were going to be a force this season in terms of that style of play.
Just pokes it through for Ryan Kent. He's onside, it's Ryan Kent with a great chance and he slots it in. And there is the opening goal of the Scottish Premiership season. And it goes the way of Rangers, created by Morelos and finished by Ryan Kent.
That was the first time we'd almost seen a different side to Alfredo Morelos. You know, the dropping deep to link, and he does that really well. And he's the one that slips Kent through.
It was a well-took goal as well from Ryan Kent when you were running through. You know, it was a fantastic finish. So, you know, it was a good start to the season.
It's an opening day win for Steven Gerrard's men, thanks to Ryan Kent's cool goal.
It was a great opening result for Rangers, but at that point in time, it was still too early to realise the significance of what it would mean moving forward for the season for Rangers.
This historic season in Scottish football is underway.
Neil Lennon knows what's at stake over the next 9 or 10 months or so with what is riding on the season. Should Celtic come out on top and create yet more history? Greg Taylor, Edwards there! And so it begins! Christie to McGregor. Celtic weaving their way through, and it is two! Here's Forrest. Edwards waiting! And scoring! Again! It's a good run by Christie. Edouard! And there's the hat-trick! Julian. Just a lovely ball. This is Klimala! Number 5! And the quest for 10 in a row begins with 3 points for Neil Lennon.
That game against Hamilton was probably one of their best performances. They dismantled Hamilton and Odsonne Edouard scoring, looking good, the shape and the structure of the team. It certainly looked as if they had just taken off from where they'd left it, you know, the last season.
So at that point in time, I think the majority of people, certainly in the media, would have thought Celtic were on course again to win the league.
Now it's Morelos, and it's gone in off Conor McCarthy. It's an own goal. Tavernier in, there's Morelos, there's the goal he so desperately wanted. And that ends a run of 10 games without a goal. Here goes Barisic. Back goes McPherson. It's Morelos. And it's Alfredo at the double.
Another victory for Rangers means Celtic need to win at Kilmarnock to keep up the pace.
Ryan Christie, the man over the set piece. Goal, and he finds it! Danny Rogers beaten from distance by Ryan Christie. And Celtic have the early breakthrough. Vasilis Barkas now with his first major test as a Celtic goalkeeper up against Chris Burke. It's Burke, it's a great penalty. Kilmarnock have taken a point from Neil Lennon's Celtic.
Points dropped, and off the pitch, Celtic hit the headlines.
The First Minister has warned Scottish football to get its house in order after yet another breach of coronavirus protocols. It comes after the Celtic defender Bole Bolingoli flew to Spain without his club's knowledge, failed to quarantine on his return and then played during his side's match at the weekend.
Celtic had a few problems regarding COVID breaches, etc. They missed games. Rangers managed to create a small gap, but I don't think at any point in time a Celtic player would have looked at that, not thinking they would catch that gap up.
Rangers pick up another 3 points against St Johnstone, moving them top of the Premiership table.
Is there a psychological advantage of, you know, getting points on the board and being ahead? I think so early in the season, that's not quite as important. Because if you're a Celtic player, as I said, you're always thinking, we'll win those games in hand, we'll catch up with Rangers.
Early on in the season, the Bolingoli situation, not being able to play a few games and Rangers getting themselves in front. I think it's certainly psychologically, it was perfect situation for Rangers to do that.
Steven Gerrard's side are held to a goalless draw in Livingston, but then go on a remarkable run of matches without conceding a single goal.
They have possession with a purpose, and it's been very much built on, the foundations at every team is a defensive unit. Everyone will talk about, some of the goals that's been scored, absolute worldies, great team goals. But the foundations, any team's success is the defensive unit.
Another impressive victory for Rangers, and they set a new record as well. 7 clean sheets at the start of the season defensively. That's hugely impressive.
A lot of people will look at it and say it's a back four, but for me, it's very obvious that it comes from all over the pitch, from the front to the back.
Actually, when you look at the way that Rangers are set up, it's very difficult for teams to score against them because Rangers control the ball so well. They play in your half, and when Rangers lose the ball this season, they win it back very, very quickly.
They seem to control the game even when they didn't have the ball. And I think they then we started to see the threat they carried going forward. So teams were always very, very wary of overcommitting bodies forward because they knew that Rangers could hurt you in the counter-attack.
You started to see the tactical work that has been put in over the few years starting to bear fruit. That doesn't happen just by the defenders and the goalkeeper playing well. That's a whole team, a whole unit.
Next up for Rangers, a trip to the capital to face second-place side Hibernian.
Going to Easter Road's always a big game. There's no doubt about it. And Jack Ross's Hibs side have done well. They've made a lot of progress. So going to Easter Road for that game, there's no doubt that was a big test. It was a big challenge.
Boyle for Hibs, big opportunity! Rangers concede!
Rangers concede for the first time this season in the Scottish Premiership. It's Hibernian 1, Rangers 0.
Davis to Kent, too high for Hadji, it's Morelos! That is what he's all about! Tavernier, Arfield, Hadji, Arfield, brilliant! Absolutely brilliant from Rangers. Chip from Boyle's brilliant, and Hibs are level. Tristan Dodge. It is a draw. The big winners are Celtic today. Broad smile from Jack Ross because his team came from behind to salvage a draw.
I think it's fair to say that today, Rangers have probably conceded more key chances than they have, the other previous 7 league games combined. So I think although Rangers had chances to go and win the game, I think over the balance of play, a point was a fair result.
It was the first time they conceded goals, but it was also a game that they could easily have lost.
Conceding 2 after having such a wonderful record, not conceding, but they don't lose the game.
That was a marker to say, all right, they've only come away with a point, but they weren't going to be beaten away from home. They weren't going to go away from home and surrender points like they had done previously.
Celtic return to action and go on a winning run of their own. The arrival of Irish centre-back Shane Duffy from English Premier League side Brighton looks to be a positive move in their bid for 10 in a row.
Yes! Yes!
Celtic had found a wee bit of form. They'd signed Shane Duffy, which was seen at the time as being a huge signing for the club, an experienced English Premier League defender.
My gut was that they're kidding themselves on a little bit because it didn't fit. In that run of form that they went on, I think it was like 8 in a row, they'd won going into that game. But the performances weren't great. They were almost like trying to convince themselves that they were doing really well. Whereas you looked at Rangers and they were in a rhythm. had their team settled in terms of what they were trying to do as a shape and a structure. Celtic, it felt like they were still just trying to find that formula, which is bizarre in a sense because of all the success that Celtic have had. You would have thought that they would have been in that groove.
Just 1 point separates Celtic and Rangers ahead of the first Old Firm derby of the season.
It is Derby Day in Glasgow. Rangers 1 point clear of Celtic, having played a game more.
Back when I was playing at Rangers, it was such a tight race between Rangers and Celtic every year. When you go into an Old Firm game, it was always, you just don't lose it.
This is Scottish football's new normal writ large. The usual cacophony of noise, the sea of green and white with a smattering of red, white and blue are nowhere to be seen. Instead, it's an Old Firm derby like none that has come before. Alfredo Morelos is a man desperate for a goal against Rangers' fiercest rivals. 4-3, Neil Lennon leads Steven Gerrard in the head-to-head since the Liverpudlians' arrival in Glasgow.
I didn't expect it to pan out the way it did. I didn't think it would be as comfortable for Rangers.
It was Rangers flexing their muscles and saying, we're not going to be walked over the way we have done in the past few seasons. You're not going to get it all your own way. And maybe that is a wee seed of doubt that crept in to the Celtic players. They've actually gone, do you know what? This is going to be tough.
Tavernier to deliver the free kick. Goldson and Hollander among the players looking to get on the end of this one. Tavernier's delivery, Goldson's in there, he has the opening goal. Rangers in front, Celtic claim for offside. It won't be given. And Connor Goldson stoops to divert the ball past Vasilis Barkas, and Rangers in front.
This is not going to be as easy as it's been in previous seasons, and psychologically at that point in time, maybe there was a shift.
I think even if Celtic had their strongest team out, I'm not sure they would have been able to, compete, because I think Rangers had that bit between their teeth.
Arfield with a bit of space. Morelos linking with Arfield again, flashed across goal. Big chance for Goldson, he's got a double. Connor Goldson, 2 for him, 2 for Rangers, and they are well in control of this Old Firm derby.
I think that was probably the first, when the alarm bells probably started ringing for a lot of Celtic fans, because this is your biggest rivals and you're playing at home, and they've came to your place and they've absolutely dominated the game.
There it is, Steven Gerrard salutes the rest of his management team. Neil Lennon disappointed that his understrength Celtic team could not see off their closest rivals. They've opened up a 4-point gap on the champions, but nonetheless an important psychological victory perhaps for Rangers.
For Rangers, I think it shows that they seem to have the beating of Celtic. It's not a one-off, it's happened before, and it will give them the belief. I think it really shows that there's a real title challenge now.
I think the thing is, when you come off of a big result like the Old Firm win at Parkhead, sometimes it's easy as a player, a group of players, to drop your guard and again think that this is going to be easy. That again, where the mentality shift for me has come in massively. Steven Gerrard has not allowed that, and I could imagine him reiterating to the players on a daily, weekly basis, every game before they go out, that each game is as important as the last. And the game at home against Livingston, again, another clean sheet, and probably the goal of the season.
Forward by Tavernier, Defoe could be in here, first time, what a finish from Jermaine Defoe. The ball from Tavernier is utter perfection, and it was matched by the finish.
Yeah, I still think it's the goal of the season. I think there's probably one player in the league in Scotland that scores that goal, and it's Jermaine Defoe. He's letting the ball, he's on the run, letting the ball come over his right hand shoulder. The ball's curling towards him, and he catches it flush in a half volley with his weak foot. That is, if you ask any striker, and if they're going to be truthful, they'll tell you that is a much harder technique.
It's all very well, looking at teams and, you know, winning games, but it's the way that you win games. You know, Rangers go and play Hamilton, they score 8 goals.
You know, the Hamilton game, that was starting to become the fear. It didn't really matter what Hamilton done because Rangers were so dominant, and that's then started to become the fear for other teams. Look, if we go here and we try and go toe to toe with Rangers, we're going to get done for 8.
Have you seen a more one-sided game?
No, I really haven't. You know, Rangers were so dominant.
Well, here's the heat map. Looks absolutely roasting in that 18-yard box, doesn't it?
It's on fire basically in the 6-yard box, and Rangers, you know, put them to the sword. They really did. One-sided as one-sided a game as you will see.
They went on this run where everything's starting to click. They were ruthless in front of goal, and they were solid in back. You know, I mean, that's just one of the things that you just sometimes go into in football.
In November, Rangers score 13 goals in 3 matches, conceding none. And following their Old Firm defeat, Celtic look to get back to winning ways.
Celtic have been behind twice, but no longer. They're in front. 3-3 in stoppage time at Pittodrie. A crucial match in the battle for the title. 4 drop points for Celtic in what has been the toughest of weeks.
You could start to see the pressure getting heaped on Celtic.
Nisbet scores! And the champions are wondering what day of the week it is.
Rangers just kept on winning. Celtic dropping more points.
Celtic, teams are of course still respectful of them, but they didn't have that same fear factor this season.
A frustrating run of results leads to Celtic exiting the League Cup, a competition they have won for the past 4 years. Their domestic dominance is over. And falling behind in the Premiership, will Celtic be able to turn their season around? Rangers start December in style. A 4-0 victory over Ross County and one of many man-of-the-match performances from club captain James Tavernier.
Ryan Kent running it, Conor Randall back in field for Morelos, breaks to Kent in the 6-yard box it goes, and would you believe it, it's that man yet again, James Tavernier with a 16th goal of the season. A quite phenomenal tally for a fullback. Goes in, it's a lovely ball for Tavernier, big chance for a third for Rangers, and as Tavernier tried to pick out Morelos in the middle, Ross County defender swept it into his own net.
There's so many times this season that James Tavernier has ended up, you know, in the 6-yard box. There's so many times that he's been instrumental in the attacks, and that's from the full-back position.
Tav, former player for myself as well, you know, I played with him in Newcastle, and I never, have to be honest, I never expected him to, he was a young boy at that point coming through, and I never expected him to hit the heights as he's hit now, not being any disrespectful in any way, but he was a good young player. But he's just, for me, he's grown at Rangers, like massively grown. Even when he came to the club, he was good, but he's just been getting better and better and better. Yes, he scores a lot of goals on penalties, but that also proved that he's an unbelievable striker of the ball.
One of the best goals that I've seen this season was James Tavernier's. I think it was against Dundee United. And you're thinking when he's setting the ball up, you know he's good from dead balls, he's a dead ball specialist, free kicks, but you're thinking it's too far out. He just gets so much whip in it, so much curl.
What he gives going forward and what Barisic gives going forward on the other side makes it so difficult for opposition teams to play against.
Neatly out wide onto Barisic. Barisic into the middle!
The quality of ball that is getting put into that Rangers box on a weekly basis from the fullbacks, it really is, it's a joy to watch.
The sound of Barisic when he clips one. It's like a beautiful golf shot. The delivery from the two of them is really, really outstanding.
How many times have we seen Barisic cross for Tavernier at the back post and vice versa? And I'm a fullback myself, and I look at the two of these guys and I think they're getting into positions and they're doing things that I would never even dream of, but they're allowed that freedom because of the structure they've got behind them. I mean, we spoke about Defoe's goal. It comes from an incredible pass from Tavernier.
Rangers taste defeat for the first time this season against St Mirren in the League Cup. Steven Gerrard's search for his first piece of silverware as Rangers manager continues.
It was a shock because at that point Rangers were very dominant and nobody seen it coming because you thought nobody's going to beat Rangers now at this point because they were doing so well.
Obviously shortly after that, Rangers conceded their first goal of the season at Ibrox.
Gallagher. There's O'Donnell. It's Lang! And Motherwell in front after only 6 minutes at Ibrox.
An early goal, you're going behind, and then Motherwell basically play without a striker and sit in with 10 men behind the ball and make it incredibly difficult.
Look at the time using it, 74 minutes played or whatever. So you know you got time. You know you don't need more than 2 or 3 minutes to score one goal or 2 minutes to 2 goals at times. We've seen it before in history of football.
Tavernier. And at the back is Kent. There's Roof. And Rangers have equalised.
But Rangers got to go back. You could see it. You could see the attitude of the players just lifted even more. And then you could see that they knew they were going to go on and push on.
Tavernier with the corner kick. Drops at the front post and at the back. There is Cedric Eaton. 8 minutes left to play. Rangers are in front. Zaribo and towards Eaton. Zaribo's there again. It's Roof. And Kemar Roof at the double. That will keep Rangers in their lofty position at the top of the Premiership. Roof with a double. Well, that's full time. And Rangers maintain their unbeaten league run this season after 18 games.
The victory moves Rangers even further ahead at the top of the table. Meanwhile, Celtic are at Hampden for the rescheduled 2020 Scottish Cup final.
Christie, oh, what a goal! Odsonne Edouard, oh, it's incredible, it's Panenka! It's Boyce, Hearts back in it! Oh, it's in! It's a Hearts goal, they're level! And it goes, Griffiths gets it! Hearts are level again!
This now you run the risk of losing the cup final.
And Whitehead has, it's Hazard again! Dyer for the cup, and he's done it! He has done it! The relief is palpable at Hampden! The history makers, the quadruple treble winners, are Celtic Football Club.
They managed to find a way to win, but with everything else that was circulating around at that point, it did feel as if that was almost just like the bookend to what had been an incredible, period of time, and that they had a mountain to climb to try to get themselves back into a position where they could go and challenge Rangers for the title.
It wouldn't have been nice for Rangers to see Celtic win the quadruple treble, because again, that's probably never going to be done again. But they probably used that as motivation. Look, guys, this is where we want to be. We want to be the team that are winning trophies.
Rangers reached the halfway point in the league season. 17 victories, 2 draws, 53 goals scored.
They've had that little stumble, they've conceded goals that you wouldn't expect, but certainly they were back to the Rangers that we've seen consistently this season.
And it's as you were at the top of the Scottish Premiership. It is a 13th successive Premiership victory for Rangers. It finished in Paisley, St Mirren 0, Rangers 2.
A very happy new year. I wish you all a prosperous and successful 2021. Premiership football gets up and...
Floral tributes have been left outside Ibrox Stadium in Glasgow to mark the 50th anniversary of the stadium disaster.
Remembering the 66 men, women and children who came along to this fixture 50 years ago and who were crushed to death on Stairway 13.
The memory of the tragedy for those who lived through that darkest of days will not fade. A nation remembers the 66.
Then we get the next Old Firm game. It's at Ibrox. There was a kind of feeling with this game that if Rangers won it, they were edging ever so close to the title.
Promising opening for Celtic. Here's Edouard. Always dangerous inside the penalty area. McGregor at the rebound. Now it's Edouard. Great save, McGregor. Alan McGregor proving his worth early on to keep out Odsonne Edouard with this first effort.
Rangers didn't play that well. Celtic dominated large parts of the match. Again, you've got the save from Alan McGregor from Lee Griffiths' shot.
What can Celtic make of this? Griffiths curls it! Another brilliant save from Alan McGregor to keep Celtic out. Doesn't get much better than that from Alan McGregor.
One of the oldest cliches in football that the champions are teams that you can win games and they don't play well, and Celtic were better in that game.
Gerrard will be a touch concerned, you'd imagine, at the way this game has gone so far.
I think that's when you start to see the fact that Celtic were better and Rangers weren't at their best, but Rangers were still the better team on the day.
Tavernier chased down by Griffiths, but gets the pass away forward for Morelos, who's hauled to the ground by Beaton. Now watch the referee's decision here. Red card for Nir Beaton. Tavernier then to take the corner kick. Sends it in, there's a goal! And it's Joe Aribo who has made the breakthrough. Well, McGregor will try and G up the Celtic troops, but his side find themselves behind. It's come off Callum McGregor last. That will go down as a Callum McGregor own goal.
They found a way to win, and that is the desire within you. That's character.
It did certainly have a feeling of that was it. It was over.
There is the final whistle. It is a huge victory for Steven Gerrard and Rangers. Callum McGregor's own goal, the deciding factor.
Problems continue to mount for Celtic. A winter training camp in Dubai hits the headlines for all the wrong reasons.
The headlines dominated by Celtic's trip to Dubai. Christopher Julian testing positive for COVID-19. A total of 16 players and coaching staff sent into isolation ahead of tonight's match against Hibernian.
A case of coronavirus within the squad leads to 13 players, as well as manager Neil Lennon, having to self-isolate and miss a crucial match against Hibernian.
The header comes in, Doidge is in there, lashed towards goal by Kevin Nisbet. And once again, it's a set piece that undoes the Celtic defence.
Of course, you had the ill-fated Celtic trip to Dubai.
In terms of the decision making, you know, at some point during the lead up to the Dubai trip, somebody has to say, I don't think this is a good idea.
Chance for Livingston to load the ball. There's Kieran Brown's there, and Kieran Brown has the opening goal.
And another nightmare for Celtic. That is horrific defending.
One problem went on top of the other, and then top of the next, and on top of the next, and all of a sudden it felt like there was so many issues and such a big, problem surrounding the club.
We have a lot to do, a lot to do. People say it's over. I can understand that, but we'll keep going.
Chance for Dermis to make it 2-1. Oh, a brilliant finish from Ilkay Dermis. And St Mirren have regained the lead at Celtic Park.
And at that point in time, I think everybody, and even Celtic players, the Celtic manager, would have conceded that, barring a miracle, there was no way back.
Meanwhile, Rangers face a tough run of fixtures. Striker Alfredo Morelos, often criticised for his discipline, comes to the forefront.
It's fabulous from Rangers, it has to be said. And Alfredo Morelos finishes it beautifully.
Alfredo Morelos, I don't think anybody can doubt what he gives to that Rangers team. On his day, he's as difficult an opponent as a centre-half will play against.
Morelos, it's 2! He's in the groove now, all right, is the Colombian.
When he's on form and he's scoring goals, he proves to Rangers and their fans and his teammates how important he is. I think when you see the celebrations when he scores goals, everybody loves him at the club, obviously, and they're so happy for him to score.
Davis for Aribo, now it's Morelos, big chance for Rangers! And Alfredo Morelos puts Rangers in front. A beautiful move from Rangers. And Alfredo Morelos finishes it off.
I could imagine Steven Gerrard's had numerous conversations with him regarding his temperament. And you can picture him speaking to Alfredo Morelos and telling him just how important he is to the football club and how he can't let the team down, because in the past nobody can deny that he's let the team down.
I don't think you'd want to take that away from him, because that's the player he is, that's how he plays. And yes, he might get a couple of red cards a season, but he'll probably score you 5, 6, 7 match-winning goals like he has done.
He's grown into the kind of player that you want him to be. I think there's been a lot of work done with him on the training ground. And Morelos, for me, has just grown into himself in that way. His link-up play is fantastic now. It's getting much better.
If you're a defender, if you're a centre-back, playing against Alfredo Morelos and he starts to go deeper in the game, you're thinking, I've got a problem here. When Alfredo Morelos goes short, Kent goes in behind, Aribo goes in behind, Hadji can go in behind, Scott Arfield, whoever's playing in there. It's so tough, and he's added that to his game.
Next up for Rangers, an away fixture against Motherwell.
Chance for Polworth will play it back onto what low ball across, Coulson scoring does! Devontae Cole sliding in between the central defenders, knocks the ball in, Motherwell have the lead. Barisic with a cross in, it's in! Centred in, and it was unmarked, and he turns the ball beyond the goalkeeper. Motherwell 1, Rangers 1.
The match marked 300 Rangers appearances for central midfielder Stephen Davis.
A quick mention for Steve Davis, it was his 300th Rangers game this afternoon. What's it like to play against him? You've played against him in the middle of the park. He is a player of real quality.
Yeah, it's difficult to get near him. You know, he's a fantastic player, and he's came back to Rangers and he's improved them again. You know, I think a few people thought it was kind of his twilight years, and he was going to come up here and take his foot off the gas, but he hasn't. You know, he's taken a standard up. He's been brilliant whenever he's played, and he's a real asset to the football club.
Steve Davis, you know, I mean, he's the anchor in that midfield. He controls everything. It's not only the forward play, also defensively. How many times you see him in key positions where the centre halves are maybe pulled out of position a wee bit, and he covers in, and he goes and covers in, but he's trying to clean up, to help out, because his experience, he's been at the highest level and international and all the rest of it. He's so important for that role.
Central midfield for Rangers is an area of the pitch where they have real options, where they normally dominate games.
For me, I love Kamara. You know, it's been an absolute steal for me what they paid for him to get him into the club. He's been fantastic.
The one for me who I really like is Aribo. I think he seems to always be in the right position. He just ghosts into good positions. He can find a pass, he can dribble past players, he can score goals.
We're talking about options. We talk about Kamara, Davis, Aribo, Ryan Jack. You know, this good option. Arfield sometimes I mean play that role as well. So, you know, Rangers' depth in the bench has been key as well for that midfield this season.
This is absolute sheer quality in terms of the patience, the level of build-up play. I think almost every player in the team, you know, has got a touch on the ball, and it's different types of movement here. You've got strikers coming in and lending a pass, you've got midfielders that are finding that forward pass.
Jack once more to the feet of Itten. Hadji's onside. There's Ryan Jack!
That's the goal that if you try and press Rangers and you don't get the press right, that's the goal you concede, because they're all good enough on the ball, they just pass the ball around you.
There's been no way to break this Rangers team down. You know, apart from probably the one game that would stick out was Hamilton away.
McMahon Street saved by McGregor, big chance here, blocked there, Callahan on the follow-up, a glorious chance for Hamilton Accies. Anderson picks it up right hand side, drives it at goal, saved by McGregor. Davis rolls it out wide left, Barisic, he's in space, he's inside the box, he smashes it across the face, and in it goes! Might well be an own goal, and this unbeatable Rangers side have found a lead. This is the last chance, there's only about 10 seconds left. Hughes looks up at the box, crosses it in, big chance, Anderson's header, McGregor again, Callahan's put it in! Accies have equalised with just about the last kick of the ball! It is Hamilton Academical 1, Rangers 1, and you have to say, Brian Rice's team deserve it.
And don't get me wrong, Hamilton deserved their point. In fact, they probably could and maybe should have won the game. It was another point in the season where, and there's been very few, where Rangers just dropped below the levels that Steven Gerrard has set the whole season. But again, you look at Alan McGregor and he pulls off, I think, 3, maybe 4 really, really good saves in the game.
To have so many saves in one game.
Well, this is the most amount of saves he's had to make in any match this season.
Yeah, and he was very disappointed about that fact.
He was not happy, was he, after the game?
And rightly so.
And you can just tell he's probably going into the changing room himself as one of the most, if not the most senior player at the club, and torn strips off them.
He's a good friend of mine, and he's always like that. We talking about league's done, you know, but he wasn't having it. He's like, nah, it's not done until it's done. He's very, very professional about his job and that. And you can see he was hurting with it because he wants it so bad.
Nowadays, where there's so many players that are not vocal and they don't express things and they're quite sort of insular, you need players that are going to be able to drive people forward. And Al McGregor's reaction after the game, I think, is something that would help to foster that mentality of it's not good enough, you need to do better.
He's been doing it every game all season. He's been definitely instrumental in the position that they're in just now.
Some of the games, had it not been for him personally, some of the saves he pulls out, then there wouldn't have been a clean sheet record like this. He's had an unbelievable season.
With question marks over Neil Lennon's future at the club, Celtic travel north for a Sunday fixture against bottom side Ross County.
Jordan White scores possibly one of the biggest goals in Ross County's league season. It is victory for County.
Does it feel like a big rebuild is required at Celtic?
Yes, I would say so, yes.
3 days after that defeat to Ross County, Neil Lennon resigns as Celtic manager.
The news in the last few minutes, Neil Lennon has resigned as Celtic manager.
When Neil Lennon's exit from Celtic was confirmed at 7 o'clock this morning, the announcement came as little surprise.
John Kennedy, who has been his assistant, will take interim charge.
I think inevitably it shows, what a disaster it's been for Celtic. Such high hopes, a historic season that was on the horizon for them has petered away, has come to nothing.
The man who captained and then managed Celtic twice had incredible success though. This Scottish Cup just one of 21 trophies over that time.
They've had a lot of success in previous seasons, but everything has to come to an end. It's sport. You see it in athletics, you see it in motor racing, all other sports. You can't win all the time.
Rangers next face Kilmarnock at Ibrox, and another contender for goal of the season makes the difference.
It's a good ball. He's going to break 2 Balligans in there. Eventually knocked away only as far as Jack on the volley. That is an absolutely fantastic strike from Ryan Jack.
The first touch is unbelievable, but the finish is sublime. The keeper has absolutely no chance. And we're talking about Ryan Jack's improvements. I'm not sure how many times he's hit these, but what a fantastic goal.
You're used to seeing Ryan Jack as maybe a defensive midfielder, but he's coming up with some really important goals, and they seem to be getting better and better. It's a magnificent goal.
Steven Gerrard's side close in on being confirmed as champions. A victory at Livingston would put them within touching distance of clinching the title.
Davis again, down the side for Kamara. Looks to shrug off Fitzwater. And Lawson, Davis with a shot! And Alfredo Morelos has surely won this for Rangers.
And there is a pile-up on the far side of Rangers players, substitutes and coaching staff. And little wonder they've scored late here to move a step closer to the Premiership crown. Rangers have won this game. Their first piece of major silverware in a decade is within touching distance now.
The celebrations from the staff and the players alike really hit home. They know that this is just round the corner. It's another game ticked off.
Well, Rangers could clinch the Premiership title this weekend should they beat St Mirren later and Celtic drop points against Dundee United tomorrow. Should they do so, they'll win their first major trophy in 10 years.
The title is tantalisingly close. Rangers invincible at Ibrox. One more win here today could be enough to get them across the line.
Some of the games that I've been at Ibrox this season, Rangers haven't necessarily started that well. But there was a different feel to this game. The atmosphere was different. And the start of the game, they were playing like champions.
Kent, room to shoot, what a goal from Ryan Kent to open the scoring. St Mirren thought they'd dealt with the danger, but when it came back to Ryan Kent, there was only one thing on his mind.
The St Mirren game was so dominant from Rangers' side. You could see that game was just, Rangers was cruising.
Hadji thought about the strike, squares it instead to Kamara, who finds Morelos. It's a tight angle, but Morelos finds the back of the net regardless. Well, he enjoys playing against St Mirren. It's 4 goals for the season against the Buddies, and Rangers, with just a quarter of an hour on the clock, have a 2-goal advantage.
There was a formality about the St Mirren result. Rangers' home form, their clean sheet record at Ibrox.
Rangers looking in the mood for an early third goal, comes to Hadji, big chance for Hadji, and that must be that. Less than 30 seconds on the clock in the second period, and Rangers make it 3-0. Rangers move 21 points clear at the top of the table. There are only 21 points left for Celtic to earn at best, as the players make their way out within sight of the fans who have gathered in celebration. It is all but done for Rangers, who will lift our first league title in 10 years very, very soon.
You could see what it meant to the Rangers players at the end of this match. Of course, they know that it's within reach.
You see the celebrations, the players they're ecstatic. But I think what was noticeable was, the senior players, Alan McGregor, and almost like thinking, wow, it's another title, and it's been a long time coming.
They knew on the Saturday it was pretty much all over. And I wonder whether or not the Celtic players watching the Rangers players celebrate, obviously the supporters turned up at Ibrox, there was this feeling that it was already won. And did that have an effect on the Celtic players going into their game on Sunday against Dundee United up at Tannadice?
So Celtic must beat Dundee United tomorrow to prolong the title race.
I was still thinking, we need to wait till, Celtic tomorrow. I'm assuming they're going to get a result anyway, and it's going to push it on because they'll be desperate to stop us and be in our way kind of thing.
Rangers neatly disposed of St Mirren yesterday. Blue confetti will fall if Celtic fail to take all 3 points, thus ending Celtic's majestic run of 9 successive league titles. Iron to Turnbull. Turnbull, it's a good save, Benjamin Siegrist. Turnbull curls it in. Good header, it's Welsh, and it's repelled by Siegrist. Christie again, another chance for Celtic. Christie teasing into the middle, Elyounoussi. Rangers will be readying those champagne corks. Elyounoussi! That's a terrific effort. Kevin Clancy blows the whistle. Celtic's failure to win confirms that one of their most glorious chapters in their history, 9 consecutive titles, has come to an end. It's a new story starting at Ibrox. Rangers are champions of Scotland.
Rangers are confirmed as champions.
Rangers are the Scottish Premiership champions season 2020-21, a first league title for the Ibrox club in 10 years.
It's been a momentous weekend in Scottish football. A massive congratulations to Steven Gerrard and Rangers Football Club for winning their first Premiership title in 10 years.
My word, his team in the league this season have been absolutely spot on when it comes to just performance level, mindset, and they are worthy champions.
Steven Gerrard, a club legend at Liverpool, achieved masses over the years in his career. This is his first managerial stint, and he comes up to Scotland, big rivalry. Celtic and Rangers, Celtic having won and going for 10 in a row. And he is the manager to break the mould. Whatever he goes on to do in his managerial career, that moment will live with him forever.
It wasn't for me until Gerrard stepped in the foot and door and he brought his team with him, and you could see from the get-go when he got in, the gap got smaller.
Surrounded himself with a top team.
I always talk about the team behind the team, and you've got Gary McAllister in there, you've got Michael Beale.
We've got it spot on and completely right, in this season. They've been relentless, and not only saying relentless in that way, they've been playing entertaining football. It's been a joy to watch them play, and what they've been doing.
Ahead of the upcoming Old Firm derby, both Celtic and Rangers come together in support of Glenn Kamara, who, during Rangers' Europa League defeat to Slavia Prague, was racially abused by an opponent.
Well, a significant show of solidarity ahead of kick-off on the back of what happened at Ibrox on Thursday night. Celtic and Rangers standing united in the battle against racism. Lovely pass from Callum McGregor in behind Balogun for Edouard. Moyel Yunusi scores for Celtic. Well, it's been a miserable season for Celtic, but there's something to smile about. Barisic swings in the corner kick, and Rangers are level, and it's Alfredo Morelos who scores his first goal against Celtic.
It's been a long time in coming, but I think it was a crucial goal today.
After another victory over Celtic in the Scottish Cup, Rangers are knocked out of the competition on penalties against St Johnstone.
And Rangers' hopes of a double are dead and buried. It is a massive day in the history of St Johnstone.
But back to league business as Rangers look to finish the season in style.
Kent in on the left foot. Goes for goal. That is a smashing finish from Ryan Kent.
When you go through this Rangers team, you're almost rhyming all the players off this season. Alan McGregor, Barisic, Tavernier. But Ryan Kent, his speed and mobility with the ball at his feet, shifting from one side to the other, dropping into little pockets of space, he terrorises defenders when he plays against them.
Some fancy footwork from Kent.
I think Kent's becoming the real talisman for Rangers now.
Kent in on the left foot. Goes for goal. That is a smashing finish from Ryan Kent.
Rangers has a fantastic squad right now that they can make stronger, add to that squad, and kick on and maybe have a couple of good years. But we're going to go in before Celtic get a kind of grip of what's going on and kind of challenge, and hopefully also Champions League next year as well.
The way that Rangers have performed this season has been ruthless.
Rangers' consistency has been incredible.
They play with a fluency, they create lots of chances.
The level of quality of performance, both domestically and in Europe, has been terrific as well.
It's Morelos on the left foot. What a strike that is!
Sometimes winners need to go through some suffering and some hurt, and certainly that's happened to Rangers over the last 10 seasons.
The fans are finally getting that feeling back of we're kind of back on top. We can build from this.
Going into next season, I think he's already relishing next season, going, I want to do this again. I want to taste that again. And he's got this drive, and it's the drive that made him one of the best midfielders in the world.
Defoe twisting away from Stephen Welsh and scoring. Still finding the back of the net after all these years. And it puts the icing on the cake here for Rangers.
Rangers are going to go into next season as favourites, but hopefully fans will be back in. So there's a different dimension again.
Celtic are going to have a huge turnover, not just of players, but as a club as a whole. The challenge for them is to find that right formula. For Rangers, it'll be more of the same and improving. So it certainly should be an exciting season next year.
Will Aberdeen respond? Will Hibs respond? Will Rangers develop their style of play further? So there's a whole host of talking points for next season, and I can't wait. I think it's probably going to be the most exciting season that we've had for a long time.
Rangers goalkeeper Alan McGregor's been named Scottish Premiership Player of the Year for 2020-21.
Rangers boss Stephen Gerrard has now won the SPFL Manager of the Year award to go with Scotland.
The final day of the season, Trophy Day at Ibrox. Could this Rangers side finish the season unbeaten in the league?
Comes off Mackenzie, it's gone in! Rangers in front already. Here's Ryan Kent. He's come to life there! Kemar Roof has a chance here, it's another one! That's brilliant from Defoe! 38 games played, 32 wins, 6 draws, and a 100% home record.
Exactly 10 years to the day since Walter Smith's Rangers clinched their 54th league title, Captain James Tavernier holds aloft the Scottish Premiership trophy for Rangers.